things that I need to check. It's often things that I forget and go back and check when I have a problem. So it's kind of a review of all that and just to pick up techniques for things that I may need to do. But first, what do we call these things?
Yeah, we're going to start with just the basic parts of the machine so that you're more up to speed if you need to talk to somebody about what's going on or whatever, right?
Yeah, and if you see me leaning in like this, I have my laptop up here, so I'm trying to look at comments, respond, so I got to reach for it. But if you have questions, go ahead and comment in, and we'll do our best to kind of keep an eye on them. We may refer you to other videos because a lot of the things we've covered or are going to cover, we've covered in a little bit more depth in earlier videos, so we may reference some of those things, and we'll definitely show you some resources of places to look when you need a little bit of help.
Yeah, we're going to try not to get hung up on all the fine details because, like Nate said, we have very detailed videos about each section.
Sorry. Yes, that's true. I just got a very sweet but good morning from sunny, warm California, and I have been cold for weeks, and I'm just over.
I know, yeah. We had to postpone this last week. Boy, it was ferocious around here, so that's why we're...
So good morning.
Happy Halloween. We're starting. Okay, so let's start with the different basic parts of the machine.
I will try to get out of your way.
First of all, up here, this is the thread tree, of course, holds the thread. I'm going to show you how to tie on a thread cone. When you get your machine, it's going to have no thread on it, but the machine is threaded. It's very important you don't pull all the thread out and then get started threading, or you just cost yourself a couple of more hours of work. What we do is pull the thread through, as I'll show you once we tie a knot on. So here's the thread tree. This part here is referred to as the needle case of the machine. This is where, of course, all the business goes on. These are the active feed rollers. You know that there's no tension knobs. This is what does the thread feed for us. Down here we have take-up levers. This moves up and down and sort of sets the stitch, kind of like when you tie your shoes. Right here is a very important part of the machine. We call it the active feed sensor. This is an electronic sensor that measures vibration, but it's easier to explain if you think about it measures pressure. So the thread wraps around it, and actually we'll check it at every stitch and go, is there pressure on you? Because obviously if there's no pressure, that means the thread is broken and will stop.
And you may hear some of us refer to it as a thread break sensor as well. And that may actually be how it's written in the parts manual, but we're talking about the same thing.
Right, it does two things. It does detect thread or bobbin out or broken. But also every stitch we're going to check it, and it's going to tell us how thick the fabric is. Because since this feeds thread, we have to know how thick the fabric is and adjust for seams and second layers of embroidery and all that kind of stuff. Very important part of the machine. Then we have a thread damper here, which your thread goes in to settle it down, keep it from whipping and knocking off other colors and all that kind of stuff. The needles, of course, we know, and this is referred to as the grabber. This will sweep the cut thread's tail into the trap, which is a Velcro section behind the needle case. That's where it stores the thread tail till we go to use it again. All right, then we have our carriage. This is the X carriage.
This is the beam.
The beam, and this is the X carriage. We have our own slang terms for them around here because we refer to them so much. Okay, and then we have hoop arms. Hoop arms, they can be set up in one of two locations. We have an inside and an outside hoop arm location. Inside covers about every hoop up to 12, 14 inches. I think the inside, yeah.
I don't do inches.
Well,
36 by 30 centimeters.
Yeah,
so yeah.
14 inches,
yeah.
And then larger is on the outside. And then, of course, right here we have the keypad. This is what's going to allow you to interface with the machine. There is a whole bunch of shortcuts that you can see here that save your trip to the computer to go do things like center hoop or trace the design or stuff like that we're going to cover.
Yeah.
Comments? Good.
In some of the setup stuff, that will be in a box called user interface. I think in the manual it's still called keypad, so you may see it either way.
Okay. This is referred to as the cylinder arm. Very small cylinder arm, allows you to get into tight areas and all that kind of stuff. Very important that at the end of the cylinder arm you understand that there is a hook. A hook is a object that has an inner and outer basket, and the outer basket stays stationary while the inner basket spins. I get them mixed up.
Yeah, I think that's correct.
No.
It's backwards.
Right. The
outer, inner stays stationary, the outer rotates.
And the outer spins to make the stitches. So that's a very important part of the machine. Also is where the cutter is that cuts the thread. And then inside of the hook is the bobbin. And here's your bobbin and bobbin case. So we're going to talk about that in a second. Then of course you have the stand, which is like kind of no big deal on there. All right, so first I want to show you how to change thread real quick. Your machine comes threaded but doesn't have thread on it. You want to comment?
No, I'm going to step over there.
Right.
When you're ready, we'll get you set up and I'll swap cameras. We'll be a little bit more zoomed in. We're just going to zoom in on the thread tree so you can see kind of the magic that's going on there, and then I'll pan down as needed.
All right, so
excuse me, guys.
When you get your machine, you pull the tape off, pull all the threads out. You have a piece of paper, oil type paper, release paper. Pull that off, straightens out all the threads, and then tie on your cones of thread. All right, so what I want to do, I'm just going to change number 1. So this is...
Do 9.
Do 9 and
9's going to be easier for you to see if you can do it from the side.
Okay.
There you go. Perfect.
Way in the way. All right, so all I do to change it, excuse me, is pull a bunch of thread out. You don't want to, get up real close. Pull yourself off some thread. You pull your new color, and these are clovers, which can stabilize tall cones of thread. Sometimes we slide those up, and then slide the new cone over. Then I'm going to take and pull the old thread out, and I'm going to tie it.
That's important. I have a lot of people put the cone on and then tie the 2 threads together when it's still going under the cone, and that's just not going to work. You got to pull the old thread over the top of the cone.
So then we end up with a square knot. This, I used to tell people in class, it's kind of easiest to just look it up on Google or something like that, especially since I'm left-handed, so it's backwards.
There is a picture in the manual of what one,
what one looks like.
Yep.
Yeah. How do you explain it? Right over left, left over right?
I don't.
No.
You've got to do one way and then the other, and that's all you have to do. Step to your right, please.
All right. So now I have the 2 threads tied together. Always good to make sure that it's a good knot, because you don't want it to come apart halfway down the needle case. That's no fun. I'll open up the grabber, and
you got to lift the pinch roller and stay out of camera.
I know,
that's all the
this
tricky
is really
bits.
hard. Okay, from back here. So I raised the pinch roller for 9, because this is number 9. It's listed all the way down. And then I'm going to go grab, just got to grab the thread here from 1 second. Grab the bottom of the tail. And then you see, without the pinch roller engaged, the thread just flows freely. So now I will just pull it all the way through. Now it's coming down the head, and it gets to the needle. Sometimes you can run into a little bit of a jam if you try and pull straight down, but the eye of the needle is elongated. And so,
I pull to the back.
Yeah, what I do is I will go at an angle like this if I need to. Anyway, so I have the thread pulled. Very important, you close the idle roller. And then I'm going to close the grabber.
Because what happens if you don't close the outer roller?
Oh boy, lovely
bird's nests.
What is a bird's nest? A bird's nest is a wad of thread above your bobbin because there's no tension on the thread when it starts to sew. Not a lot of fun.
Also, bobbin case, if you leave this out, no bueno.
I've never done that.
I do it all the time.
So once I close the grabber, I'll take a regular pair of scissors and cut, maybe leave a ½ inch or so below the grabber.
Yeah.
And that's the right amount so that the thread tail gets buried on the back side of the garment when you start sewing.
Cool.
All right, so that's changing a thread.
Too short, it won't pick up. No, I'm talking about bobbin thread, never mind. Too short, it will misstart, and a little bit longer will help it actually catch. So that's what he was referring to.
All right, so that's threading. Next we have the bobbin. So,
Let's do
top down.
top down.
How your bobbin goes is how your day goes. That's what I used to explain in class.
It's not untrue.
It's worth getting decent bobbins. You're paying, what, 20, 30 cents for a bobbin that's going to last 60,000 stitches? I mean, that's a lot of shirts. And if they're wound tighter, if they're irregular, you can run into all sorts of trouble.
He said 60,000. It totally depends on your stitch length and if you're doing more fills or more satins, and that all changes. So
40 to 70.
check it. Check it every few sew outs.
Yeah, you'll get to where you have a spider sense in your head of, you know what, I've done about, whatever, 6 shirts, and so I better have a look at the bobbin. You want to change it before it runs out.
All right.
When possible. Okay, here's the bobbin. So, you get 2 over here.
You gotta just, there you go.
Okay. So you get 2 bobbin cases with your machine. We recommend using them both. One's in sewing while the other one is tensioned, cleaned, ready to go. So when this one becomes low, it's just a quick switch, load a garment, hit start.
I also like having the extra in case if you're working on a cement floor, make sure you have something under there.
Yes.
And don't drop your bobbin case. If you drop your bobbin case, it's gonna bend out of round and it's not gonna work.
Throw
If
it.
that happens, go grab that other one. Make sure that you have a spare.
They're $10 a piece. They do wear out in time. The springs are not, as good as when you got them 6 or 10 years later. If you drop it from
Neither
3
am I.
feet onto a concrete floor, you're really best to probably get rid of it and buy a new one because it is essential that it is round. Okay, so we want to clean the bobbin case out. More on this, to put a card underneath the spring. You can see all sorts of help. We did a whole, Mike did a whole half hour on just bobbins.
He did.
Okay, basically they come pre-wound is what most people use. Black and white are the most common colors. Probably white is the most common. There are manufacturers that do green, blue, yellow, all sorts of other colors like that on the market. Why would you want that? Well, if you're sewing a knit shirt or a hat, you don't really care because the bobbin isn't going to be seen unless you turn the shirt inside out or whatever. Now, if you're doing a high-end monogram towel, that does make a difference because you will see the back of the towel. So if it's a burgundy monogram, maybe black would be a better choice than white. Something like that.
There are different options on Shop Milko of bobbin cases that you can buy. Typically, if you're going to be using the pre-wound, you're going to be buying the one without the backlash spring, and I think a link has been posted, yes, for that one. So that's why that is. So if you see both of those, one is meant for heavier metal bob. That's not you.
Yeah. You can wind your own bobbins. I think we talked about that in the past. But that's where you need the special case with the backlash spring.
And I honestly, I wouldn't do it most of the time because the better wound your bobbin is, the better your embroidery is going to be.
Or your day is, right? How your bobbin goes is how your day goes.
Yes, and getting a very nicely wound bobbin is a little more difficult than it sounds.
Okay, so we want to clean the case out. You get a brush. Business card helps get under and pull the wax out. The bobbin thread has a light amount of wax on it, some heavier than others. So we want to use either the side bobbins with the cardboard, or the plastic-sided ones is another brand.
I use those not infrequently.
Just be really careful of the sideless bobbins, with the exception of the magnetic ones those are pretty good.
Cool.
The sideless ones. Okay, so how do we load it? Well, first of all, this is going to be a little bit hard to see, but I want to pull it so it's in the shape of a 9. Basically, as I'm pulling, it's unwinding clockwise.
Yep.
Should I show black?
I was thinking that might help, but I'm lying, and it's totally not going to help. There you go.
Okay, like I said, we got a whole detailed half hour on the close-ups and all that kind of stuff. So it's in the shape of a 9, unwinding clockwise. I put it in from the back, and then I'm going to look for this little slot in the top, and then I'm going to go underneath the spring.
The spring is that band on the side. It's not that little coily bit. I know that I say that like every time I talk about this, but that's important.
And then the whole tension discussion is in the full one that Mike did.
So just double check your tension. I do it in theory, you could do it every few bobbins. I do it every one.
Yes, right. It's just a good time when you clean it out to throw a new one in tension it. Also, your bobbin tension will change slightly through the life of the bobbin. As your machine warms up, they loosen up a touch.
And not only that, a new bobbin is heavier than a mostly used, like, that's going to make it change.
There's only so much room in there, like Mike talks about in his bobbin video, and so if you get too fat of a bobbin, that is going to change tension drastically because it's rubbing on the sides.
That too. So be careful that you don't get an overwound bobbin, and they can overwound kind of either way. They can get bigger around, or they can kind of balloon out front to back.
So you can either do a hang test where you shake it and how far it drops tells you some about the tension, or we have a bobbin tension gauge, which is really a good tool to have. And that will tell you as you pull it exactly what your tension is.
Yep.
The last thing I do is put it through the pigtail. I don't thread it like a needle. It's a corkscrew tail, so I just go like this and it's all set. This is way too long of a tail. You want about 1 to 3 inches. What do you like?
So I do that after.
Can
I show you why?
You bet, please.
So just to double check myself, I typically will put the thread on the front of the case and stick my thumb on it so I don't get it in the back. A lot of times when I'm doing this, I'm inside of a garment and I'm not looking. But if you do have the ability to look, go ahead and put it in the machine. And I don't hold the lever when I do that. I just keep my thumb on it and then press in, and you should hear it click. And I leaned in, so hopefully the mic got that. But then I will pull on this thread, and I will watch which way it turns in the machine. And it should be turning counterclockwise when it's in the machine. So that's why I trim it up later. But yeah, 2 to 3 inches. And this is where I started to talk earlier. Too short and it won't pick up. So you're just not going to grab a stitch. Same kind of thing will happen if your bobbin tension is too tight. If your bobbin tension is too tight, it can't pick up the stitch.
And if the tail's too long,
then it wraps up inside and is no bueno. So 2 to 3 inches is what you're looking for.
Right, okay. So we got this in, we can trim it.
Nice.
And after that, the machine's going to take care of it, trim it the right length.
Yeah.
Tail. Changing a needle. 16 needles, very important. The needles that we use are different than sewing machine needles, and that they're full round on the top of the shank. So you can plug them in any direction, 360 degrees, wrong. Very important that this is...
You can get 355 degrees of wrong.
You could. So very important that you get them in with the eye facing straight ahead as you're facing the machine, or what's really good is slightly to the right. 5 degrees is very little.
So I compare this to a clock face. If you think about a clock face, you've got 360 degrees, right? A minute is 6 degrees. So essentially you're looking for 1 minute to the right if you were having a clock face down underneath your needle and trying to rotate that.
Yes, so it's better to be straight, than straight ahead than too far to the right, like 10 or 15. If 5 is good, but 10 and 15 is not better.
5 is good, 10 to 15 is not better, and going the other direction is really not good.
Never to the left, because you're putting the machine in a jam trying to pick up the stitch. You're saying, I bet you can't catch me because you're way out of the way instead of here,
What that is doing is it's changing where the loop is. So there's a loop of thread that's formed on the back side of that needle. That's where that scarf is.
Right.
So needles have an anatomy, right? They have a long thread guide on the front, and they have a big, needles are small. It's a chunk taken out of the back. So that little bitty chunk, that's the scarf. That's going to go on the back of the needle, and that scarf is where the loop of thread is formed and the hook passes. So if that's not happening, or if it's rotated a little bit wrong, you're making that window a little bit smaller, and that's a little bit dodgy.
So what happens sometimes if you have it to the left? Shred break, right? The hook ends up hitting the thread instead of reaching inside the loop and starts shredding it. That's where you get a ball of thread here. That gets bigger,
you can actually start piercing that thread.
So
sorry, I had to swap cameras on you. We were freezing, and I had to try to make it not do that.
Okay, so how do we get the needle in straight? That's why we give you a needle orientation magnet. Square on the ends, it's rare earth, pretty powerful magnet. However, it's not strong enough to hold the needle. Oh, am I in wrong?
There you go.
it's not strong enough to hold by the magnet and push it all the way up. It's very important when you put the needle in, you push it all the way till it won't go any further, right? It's important on the timing and all that. So the cool part about a needle is the groove on the front where the thread rides in is kind of flat, and so this
creates two edges, and so two edges create a flat base, so
this
the
will
orientation magnet sticks straight out from it.
Exactly. This will tell me the direction that my needle is angled.
Yep.
So a pretty good thing to do is just go right down the line with your magnet, stick it to each of them, and see how we're doing.
It is a little easier if you close the grabber first.
It is, yeah, definitely want to close the grabber. Needles, different sizes, different points, different coatings. Nate did a whole excellent video.
In a snowstorm.
Was it last winter in the snowstorm?
It was spring. It should not have been that snowy.
And it goes into detail completely on how to, shows you loading them.
And if you want to see where those things are, we keep referencing these things. Let's just hop over real quick. So YouTube, we have a YouTube channel. It makes it a little easier to find. If you just search Melco Education, you can come up with our channel. And then you can go through playlists to find stuff. My internet connection on this computer is really slow. But you've got all the live sessions, you've got Design Shop Talk, you've got all kinds of good stuff in here. Also, if you go to the Melco Tech website, and I think some of these links have been posted already. Dan said it was March. I knew it was just March 13th. If you go into the FAQ, there is, and I'm not going to wait for this, there is a lovely listing of an index of all of the videos. So if you are looking for, you can even search, needle orientation or changing a needle or whatever. And I'm freezing again. I got to get that worked on. So yeah, lots of references for you. And then again, there's information in the manuals too.
Okay, so that's changing a needle. They do wear out. You talk about all this, how much time you get on a needle usually.
Yeah, and that's going to depend on your coating. How long do you use them? I go till they fail, till they start causing me issues. I am not keeping a calendar. If I change this needle, no, I'm not doing that.
Because it matters on the coarseness of the fabric, right? It's the same amount of stitches on something like a duck canvas is going to be brutal on the needle compared to silk.
True.
Or performance wear or
True.
something like that. So we're not going to get into all the different stuff on the needles because we have the full video on that. Okay, so next we'll talk about quickly loading the design. There is 3 ways to load the design. One is that we have 2 interfaces going in at one time in Melco OS. This is called the advanced interface, and then we can also switch back and forth. I'm going to go to the simplified through Tools, Restart, and Melco UI. That will fire up the other interface. Split decision on who likes which interface the best, right? The simplified is very, very easy to understand. It's very easy to load, colorize, and sew.
I like the simplified if I'm working in a touch environment. So like this monitor right here that I'm using to swap screens on you with, it's a touch monitor, and it works really, really well with this because the buttons are big enough that my fingers can use them, and I'm not getting into anything I don't want to get into. If you want all the intricate little bells and whistles and all the settings and all the little nitty-gritty everythings, the other interface is what you want.
Yeah, sometimes some production staff can get intimidated by the advanced interface, so we wanted a nice, easy, calm-looking, large button interface that makes it so easy.
He uses the advanced, I use simplified. Not sure what that says about our personalities.
I taught simplified for a long time, though. I taught advanced and simple, and I'll tell you, simple is so much easier to learn off the start. Okay, you'll find you'll end up picking one and sticking with it usually. It's not that people flip back and forth too often.
You'll also rarely find a screen like this where there isn't a design already loaded.
Right. This would be switching to a machine, to the computer that's never seen that machine.
It's also when I go into the background and wipe things out because I'm trying to make certain things show up on screen. So that's what you're getting in here is me messing with computers. But yeah, usually there will be one loaded except for the very first time.
All right, so we will go load, And I will go to computer, I'll go to desktop. Here's a Morning Glory. This is one that we used. And Nate and I did one on digitizing from start to finish.
So right now it's out center, off center, so Scott just pressed the hoop and the center key on the keypad to center it up.
Right, I'm going to show you that coming up also. Okay, so we do load design, then we do color sequence, which is really pretty simple. This is normally got to be set up with Colorize palette, and so I would click on the color and then click on the thread color that corresponds with it like that.
Cool.
Down here I pick my hoops. We have all the hoops listed, all different shapes, in different categories by shape: squares, rectangles, circles, clamps, hats, all that kind of stuff.
So let's go back to let's go back to the advanced and do kind of that little bit again, because it does look a little bit different.
It does. Okay, so we pick our hoop and we set active feed and we set our speed.
Yep.
So now we'll switch to the advanced.
Jump all over you, sorry.
And this is load design is right up here. So I would pick, like the design that I just did was desktop and it was the bakery design. It'll load from there. Then I pick my hoop. This is a little bit different in advanced. We don't have all the hoops showing like they do in the simplified interface. We pick sort of the standard, more used ones, I guess, by default. The ones that come with the packages.
Different packages. It's not, but yeah. The other nice thing about this, though, is you can go in and you can customize that list to only have the hoops that you own. Another thing that's nice about it is you can go turn one on that you're thinking about purchasing to see if it's going to fit your needs well.
Right, and you can measure the sow field limits, like all that kind of stuff. Very, very.
And I prefer to do that in OS. If I'm looking at it in Design Shop doesn't know kind of where the physical limits of the machine are. So there are hoops that are bigger than the physical limits of the machine. So you may not be able to get to everywhere in the hoop. OS will show that. Design Shop won't. So go look at it in Design Shop before. Go look at it in OS. Before you decide to buy a hoop.
And also on Shop Melco, we list the outside dimension of the hoop, the sow field of the hoops, just...
I think we do on some of the new ones. On some of the old ones, I don't know if we list all of that.
Pocket hoops, for example.
That's very different.
Like, hey, I get it. Will this pocket hoop fit inside the pocket I'm going to do?
That's where the ID and the OD are different than the sow field, and all of those things matter.
All right, so if, let's say I buy a Mighty Hoop and it's not on by default, very simple in the advanced interface tools. I go to
Hoop,
Tools, Hoop Setup, Customize Hoop List. Here's all the hoops, pretty simple. Whatever has a checkbox is what shows up in the list instantly. So you could check and also uncheck uncheck the ones you don't have, check the ones you do have, and they will stay in the list. All right, so that's customizing to the list. The next thing, we got color sequence. We showed you the simplified. Here's the advanced. Normally clear all, and then I'm going to look at the machine and I'd see, well, where is light green? Well, that's number 16. All I have to do is click on it and it shows up. And you just go right down the list. Dark green is here, then we go light purple, medium purple, gold is over here, back to light purple, and finish up with dark green or whatever. So that's where all your needle numbers show up in order by how the design sews. So right down here is the list of what sews in what order, and here is the list of what needles I have associated with that. Also, what you'll want to do, if your software supports it, is to colorize the palette. All I have to do is right-click on a given color, and I can type in, if I know this was black, 1800 Madeira. I can hit apply.
You got it. People are having trouble hearing you, so I'm just going to turn you up a little bit.
Okay. Oh, this came loose.
Well, that would be why.
This thing is not a very good holder.
Excuse us while we have technical difficulties.
It's like
also, one of the questions, hopefully that got better. Your levels are still a little low. I'll put a filter on you here in a minute.
Okay.
Sorry, as I have your microphone. One question that came up, and I was going back and forth. What are the options for the touch interface? What machine limitations? That is machine specific. So certain machines have this, certain OSs do not. Bravo OS does not have that right now. You'll be looking at Melco OS has it, and then if you have a Bernina E16, they have kind of a different version of it. So every machine kind of has their own operating system. If you're not seeing it, that may be why. It may be a level-dependent feature as well. So certain levels of software will or will not allow it.
Okay.
I got to get you back to your screen.
So normally you're going to want to colorize the whole palette if that option is available. We can use that to automatically fill out the color sequence when we load the design. If you have that feature, you can read about that. So once I set the color sequence up, then I'm going to move down to Actifeed, which is right here. Remember, we talked about the sensor on the machine, how it measures and detects how thick the fabric is. We want to give it a little bit of an aid and tell it how thick the fabric is before it starts. It's going to find its own levels and all this, but we want to kind of get it close. So what are the normal presets? This is the minimum right here. Right up here is just what auto reports. It's going to throw up a number every certain amount of stitches to give you an average of what it's finding. So this is non-adjustable. Here's the number right here that we set the minimum, and also sometimes we would want a maximum on puff. Usually I'll set that about 50 on a hat, and then it won't exceed the 50, which is what you want. So we're going to say that we're going to do a polo shirt, which is pretty thin. Cutaway backing and a polo shirt equals, somewhere between 4 and 6. Those are called embroidery points, 1/10 of a millimeter. So I'm going to start here at 4. And then it's going to take care of stuff from there. So normal setting for flats, that means polo shirts, performance wear, t-shirts, things like that, somewhere between 3 to 6.
And I tend to go, so I don't know about you, I tend to raise it up until I start having issues and then back it off a little bit.
Right. How do you know if you went too far? False brakes, right? There's not enough pressure on the sensor, and so it thinks, hey, there's no thread here.
Or if for some reason that's still doing it, you'll start seeing looping.
And there is an adjustment in the OS to set the sensitivity of this too. If it's too sensitive or not sensitive enough, you can adjust it, and then it will it'll behave like it should after that.
Sorry, and I keep doing this kind of number. No, we're having conversations, and I'm not being fully present for
that's okay.
you guys.
All right, so then normal on flats is going to be about 3 to 6. Normal for hats, thin, low-profile hats, you might be at something like an 8. But for the thicker skateboarder style, whatever you want to call them, structured hats that have buckram, the white on the inside or black, 10, maybe even 15, depending on how thick the hat is going to be a good setup. You have to move it up for hats, but then you also have to remember that when I go back to flats, it's too high, so I have to bring it down, right? So that's always an issue. It kind of follows with the presser foot, which I'll show you here in a second.
I'm giggling because that's the part that I tend to forget when I go back to things.
Oh yeah, so what happens if you leave your presser foot too high from a hat and go back to a flat? It's thread breaks because your presser foot is not touching the fabric, and we require
more rippling, weird. It can also give you weird Actifeed settings because the material is moving, which is changing how it's hitting the sensor.
Exactly, it's bouncing.
Yeah.
So generally, you need to hold the fabric down while the stitch goes through it.
He means the presser foot. You don't put your hand on there to hold it.
No, not your hand. You want to, yeah. All right. The machine you're running does. And then for puff settings, puff is really thick. So 25, if you don't have the puff icon, which is available in some of our software.
So this is so we were talking earlier the interface, the simplified interface with what machines it's the OS version. So yeah, Amaya OS didn't have it. Melco OS does. So that's that version. Did I say 11, 10? I don't know what we're on.
11 now.
We're 11?
Yeah.
I get lost.
Okay, so if you have the icons here for the puff, all you have to do is highlight the color that you want, and generally puff runs last, so it's always going to be the last one. And then I would check 3mm puff, gets an asterisk right there. That's going to move everything up for the thickness of the puff. If you don't have it, it's really not hard. I would just put a hold command before that color with the puff. That tells the machine to stop. And then I would move my number up to 25.
Something
and
like
then
that.
Put it back down.
And that's going to depend on the thickness of foam, too.
If you use the simplified interface, there's an icon. You just drag right onto it. We'll go switch over.
No, you're good.
Okay. All right. That's easy to find. Okay, so then machine speed. Of course, that's right here. Machine sews between 300. I never go that slow, right?
You'll see it go that slow on inching stitches, but no, basically your sew speeds are going to be between, I would say 800 is the lowest.
Yeah, recommended, but I mean the machine will physically go down that slow. We just don't.
Yeah, we do it for, yeah.
In a nutshell, normal for flats, I go between 850 if it's something really wild, up to about 1100. I really kind of like 1100, 1000 to 1100.
But your machine can go 1500.
I know, but just like your speedometer on your car goes to 140, hey, hopefully I'm not on the same road you're driving that speed at. We don't always go full max out. It's also, I used to explain it's kind of like the tortoise and the hare, right? You can get done faster by going slower because you're not putting so much stress on the thread running the heck out of it.
Yeah, and there are some applications where you could totally do that, but your stitch lengths are going to be smaller. It's going to be machine movements that dictate some of this, and you're setting a maximum speed. The machine will slow down if you need to.
Yes, if you say 1500 and your stitches are this wide, no, it says I can only get from A to B in a certain amount of time, and it'll slow down. Okay, so that's the rough how to load, set up the speed, the color sequence, active feed settings, and now we're just going to do kind of a quick blast. Nate's going to show us hooping.
So how do you even choose a hoop? You have so many. Typically I'm going to choose a hoop, and I'm going to look at this in the software. The hoop that I usually sew, the smallest hoop I can.
Exactly. How come? 2 reasons.
Oh, you're going to make me do 2?
Well,
there's less fabric play.
Less waste, right?
Less waste.
Well, yeah, if I had a little left chest and a big jacket back hoop, I'm cutting away all that excess backing and throwing it in the garbage.
Yeah, I'm not cutting it out of the garment. No, I don't see the backing. Yes.
Only when you don't want to, you cut the garment, right, Nick? Oh, man. Yeah. No one's
So anyway, yeah. I'm going to choose one that fits as closely as possible but still fits within my hoop limits. Unless I'm trying to get, there are times I will do one that's a little bit bigger if I'm trying to get around a button or around a chunk of a pocket or something like that. But typically I'm going to do that. How do I do that? How do I actually hoop it? First, you'll want to take your outer hoop. There's 2 pieces, and they look kind of like this extends, but this is the inner hoop because it fits within the outer hoop. The outer hoop is the adjustable one. Typically what I will do is I will loosen it up for adjustments. And then I typically put the adjustment part towards the top. I typically do the top in first and then come down as I hoop. And there's a couple reasons for that. One, if I put the top in first, I smooth this area out. And then as I push the hoop in, I have just a smooth piece of hoop to go against. If I put the bottom in first, and then I try to put the other piece in here, sometimes these little edges can get a little offset and make it that much harder to hoop, and I'm not really up for that. So what I'll do is I will lay my hoop down, and I say top, bottom, I don't really care. This can be here, this can be here. Don't put it here because then as you hoop, you can't really adjust. That makes it really hard. I tend to put it at the top. I'm right-handed. I put the screw over here so that I can access it.
I mean, yeah, another option would be if you're hooping on a table, you know, if you put this down or some other direction, you can adjust it easier. It can be kind of hard to reach around to the front, but so 45 is what I use.
Okay, just don't put it under an arm.
Everybody is
I'm moving this around all kind of which way. It's a round hoop, I can do that. There are hoops, especially the wooden hoops, that are keyed. They don't get to go around every which way. You have to line up. There's usually a stamp on them. Those have to go together. You can't take the outer hoop of this one and put it onto an inner hoop of another one. They are mated. They only go together one way, so make sure you're doing it that way when you're dealing with wooden hoops. Plastic hoops, you can usually get like 1 or 2 ways to do it, but round hoops, you get a few more options. All right, so I'm going to take my backing and my material. I'm going to set it down there. I'm just going to put my hoop in. It should go really nice and easy. And then I am going to tighten this to finger tight. And what I'm doing right now is I'm adjusting my hoop. And I typically do not do this after the garment is in there, and here's why. So when I put this in here, it was nice and tight. But if you look now, I have a ripple of material. Because you're making that circle smaller, you're moving everything in. You're going to give yourself more material in the space because you're making the space smaller. So I then will unhoop, and typically I will just put my thumb here. I will put my finger on the back side, so right here, and push on that inner hoop, flip that out of there, and then I will go 1, 2, maybe 3 full turns more.
Tighter, yes.
Yeah, I'm gonna go a little bit tighter. How many you do depends on your hand strength.
And you only have to set the tension of the hoop once for a given order, right? If you have 50 polo shirts, you set it for the first one. It's just pop and go. You don't have to keep readjusting.
No,
it's
this is the first time I do a given garment or material. All right, now, so I'm going to hoop it again. I've got my adjustment here. I'm going to lay my material out. I'm going to have it as smooth as I possibly can. I'm going to put my hand back here. And I'm going to put the top down and in, and I'm going to push forward. Now, when I do that, I don't want to just come across and drag. You can see all those ripples that I just made. That's what I'm trying not to do. So I will put the top in, lean forward, push forward, and that's going to put tension all along the top, and then I will come in and rock my hand back so that I've got pressure back here. And I'm not going to try to put it in one-handed. That's not something I have the strength to do. I will then come around and rock that into place. And I do kind of a little, so I'm going to do it here so you can see. You just saw from the top down. I'm going to do it again. Come in. I'm not dragging it. Let's go back so you can see it a little bit better. Come in, rock down, and then I do it all in one. And I use my body weight to do it. So I kind of lock my arms and lean forward. This is a little tall for me, which is saying something. But the height of your table can really impact how you hoop. If you are working on it and you're rocking it around and trying to get it in there, your hoop may be a little bit too tight. And if that happens, you're going to be walking in fabric, you're going to be walking in ripples, and you're probably going to be scarring up the garment.
Yes, hoop marks, right? Or hoop burn, as it's called, if it's too tight and you try and slam it in there. And that never fails. You get the whole jacket in there, you got the hoop, everything is straight, and then, your hoop isn't loose enough, right? So then you got to start over.
The other thing that'll happen is your hoop's upside down, and I didn't even talk to you about that one.
And the direction with the slot.
That's what I mean.
You did. Oh, okay.
So yeah, this goes in the upper right-hand corner. With a swatch, it doesn't really matter. Had I hooped it upside down, I could have flipped it and I would have been fine. With a garment, that makes a much bigger difference. So Scott already put the placement on here so it's a little bit easier to see. So for a garment, typically left chest, I do 7.5-ish inches down from this seam at the
right
kind of shoulder collar-y meat. So I go about 7.5 inches down, and then about anywhere between 3.5 to 4.5 inches over, depending on, honestly, the size of the garment. The smaller the garment, the closer in I get, the larger the garment, the farther out I go. So Scott marked this roughly. I'll say roughly. Ooh, I just blew stuff all over the place.
That's all right. I got more.
We have more.
I have backups.
All right. So typically what I'll do, I'll slide the backing into place. I'm going to open up that garment, slide the backing into place. We have static like crazy in here today. and then I will hold the hoop so that I can slide it in as well, and it is going to go underneath the backing. Putting the backing in here isn't going to do me any good if I don't get it between the hoops. I have done that a time or two, just don't tell.
Really important that the entire backing is in the hoop, right?
Yes.
That it's completely covered. You can't have missed by, oh, you know what, it's just like 1/4 of an inch on the top. That affects shrinkage and quality of
Yeah,
the final product.
it will pull a little bit more. So then what I'll do is I'll kind of smooth this out, and then I will use my fingers to kind of move that outer hoop around until I get it about right, and then I will lay the other hoop over there and see, am I about where I want it to be? And then once I get it, I will come back and I'll put that, let's go a little bit more forward. I'll put that top in, and here, so you saw me drag across, that was on a knit, a woven. If I did that on this knit, it would be so much worse. So I'm gonna put the top in, I'm gonna leave even pressure back here just to kind of smooth all that out. I'm not pulling. If I pull, it's gonna pull that grain, and when I have it in the hoop, it will look fine. Yeah. And then when you unhoop it, anything you had straight will then be a little frowny face, and that's no good.
Or puckered, yeah.
Yeah, that too.
Ripples, all sorts of
stuff. So they'll put that top down. This is in my upper right-hand corner if I'm going in through the neck. If I'm going in through the base, I need to flip that around. Come in. All one smooth motion is what I'm looking for, and then I will see if I can do everything all at once. I will hold this up. I will look to see, am I straight? Obviously, I am super not straight.
Yep.
So I will then not just pull on the hoop. I will unhoop, reposition, and do it again. Don't just twist
it.
I know that's a thing that circular hoops can do. Don't do it. So unhoop, straighten out, reposition.
A lot of times you're going to get a hoop mark on darker garments and stuff like that, but it's not an issue, provided you don't hurt the fabric by having it really tight when you pop it in.
You can, if you really crank on it and tighten it down, you can scar it.
Water
if you
works
just
good.
if you just have hoop burn where it's a little bit of a chalky kind of whatever. Magic sizing is this lovely, and I don't have a can of it in here because I didn't think we were going to be talking about it. It's an ironing aid. It's not like starch, but it takes out a lot of hoop burns that even water doesn't want to let go of unless you steam it out. Steaming is another option. One other thing, if I'm trying to tighten something up and I can't get it tight enough, what I will do, take a piece of backing and sandwich the fabric in the backing, and I will cut a hole in the backing so that I have multiple pieces of backing that's holding it to get the thickness, but I'm only sewing through the one in the shirt. So I'll put the hoop on here, I'll draw a circle on the inside, I'll cut it out, and then I will sandwich that I'll sandwich the fabric between those pieces of backing and hoop it that way, and that will hold better, it will scar less.
Good idea.
It's kind of it's kind of a nice little neat trick.
Nothing's like hooping with a station, though, for consistency and just volume. I mean, yeah,
that super helps.
Depends how many heads you have and how used to you are. You could be a great hooper on the table, but you hire an employee who doesn't know it. It's a long curve to learn how to get perfectly straight on.
Hooping on a table, I get it level and straight about 60% of the time.
Yeah.
Hooping with what did you just call it? A station? I'm way closer to the 90 mark, which makes it way easier. If you need a topping, so this is a piqué knit, water-soluble topping wouldn't hurt. You can hoop it in. I typically will lay it over the top of the hoop and then tape it to the edges of you can't see what I'm doing. Tape it to the edges of the hoop.
Light, yeah. Slack, right?
With, a little bit of painter's tape. If you make it totally tight, the needle's going to come down and it's not going to stay. Putting it on the machine?
Yes, that's next. So we use the water-soluble topping generally on piqué knits. It works great on performance wear for increasing the quality. Towels, napped fabrics, stuff like that.
Robert's giving me grief because he says it looks like I'm not worried if it's perfectly straight. Couple things you can do. Yeah, if I'm doing hundreds of these, I'm going to get, and I have, I'll get pretty good at holding it up and looking and seeing if it's straight. So I'm holding it and looking across the shirt, and I'm using, and I can't apparently do all the things and show the camera at the same time, but I will look across the hoop arms to see if they're straight. So that's what I'm looking at for that.
And your tape will give you a reference if it's long enough for
you can do that too. If you want to tape every piece, you can. I typically do not.
A lot of times the grain will show you straight too of the fabric, straight up and down.
Boy, I wish that was true.
If it's a good quality garment.
That's the bigger difference. You'll get a lot of garments that have crooked
We had
grain.
an order one time. They were the cheapest shirts when I owned a shop up in Boulder, and I swear you put them on and it would be like you twisted the bottom half of it. It was the goofiest. Yeah.
The other thing that you'll start if you wrong button. If you start dealing with something like this, you'll have a placket, and you'll start to figure out, oh, I'm this far over from here on the placket, and I'm this far below whatever button, and you can start using placement that way, and you don't even have to mark every hoop. If
Like
you want to be
fingers, you know,
I
four
use fingers, yeah,
like that.
2 fingers over, 4 fingers over, you know, however, yeah, it's. I mean, we measure horses that way. Why can't we measure shirts?
All right, then putting it on the machine.
Yeah, I was gonna say one more thing about this, but it's totally gone. Must not
the
matter.
hoops are even on the back side, right? You know.
Oh yeah,
in
yeah.
and out, that's kind of common.
If anything, you know, make sure the outer hoop is actually pushed above the inner hoop.
Because if it's off the edge of the cylinder arm, we don't want it to catch on the bottom of the outer hoop.
If you have a lined garment, that's what it was. If you have a lined garment or a checked garment or something you have to absolutely line up to, there is always the option of laser alignment on the machine.
Right.
So, all right. So, best way to do this.
First, I close the grabber.
You do. I don't.
You leave it
go
open?
ahead.
Okay.
So we're
go
going
ahead.
to. I'm going to go in through the neck. I typically have one hand opening here, and then I have the other hand inside to help guide the underneath side of this. I'm going to try to do this backwards and out of the way. Normally when I do this, you know what, I'll do it from this side,
Okay.
and I'll do it non-dominant hand, because why not? I'm going to put the collar over the lower arm. I'm going to double check that the bobbin's in there. And then I'm going to tip slightly up as I do this. If I tip down, I'm probably going to start hitting that adjustment screw area of this onto my machine. Now, the really ugly bit of that is if you're in a big hurry and you do that, you can actually push this far enough in that you can change that rotary hook support gap, which there has to be a gap in here, otherwise thread can't get through there.
Right, every
You
stitch.
can squish that and start giving yourself thread breaks. So if you're an aggressive machine loader, that can be a problem. All right, so I'm going to tip up to avoid that, and then I'm going to put the front end of the hoops under these clip arms, and then as I do that, I'm going to slide forward, non-dominant hand, kids, sorry, and then I will go ahead and push, and I want to hear it click. I want these little clips to go down on either side. The other thing I'm going to do is go inside the garment. I'm going to balloon this out as much as I can, make sure I have only the layer of garment that I want to embroider between the hoop and the needle plate.
Yes, if the back of your shirt is above the cylinder arm, like we see a lot of newbies do, you sew the front to the back. Then you got to cut it apart the garment in order to get your hoop back.
Yeah, that's no bueno. That's another reason you'll see me trace quite frequently, is as I'm doing this, if I see the hoop kind of go around and then go up and then come back down, it means I probably have like a fold of a garment go under something and I'm dealing with extra fabric and I want to go in and take care of that.
We've even had people in class sew the tag in, right? The tag of the shirt. Oh,
I have been
that's
guilty of hooping a tag in.
painful.
Okay.
All right, so that is how to load the machine. Then you might need to center the hoop. Generally, the way that it works is the design is digitized where the needle starts in the center of it and does the whole design and then returns back to the center of it. So therefore, if we center the hoop the needle, in the hoop on the machine. The design is centered. That's kind of the way the whole progression works. So I can do it differently. Here in advanced mode, I have a center hoop.
There you go.
I have a center hoop icon right here. Also, we said you can do it from the keypad, which is hoop plus the bullseye will center it. So that's how to center it. A lot of times if you have a mark, you can't hoop it exactly in the middle, and so you're going to be off a little bit. Generally, if you got a little bit of a leeway area inside your hoop, you can do that.
You're good.
But you might need to jog if you need to hit a certain location. Now, who's going to know that, oh, your shirt, the logo is 1/8 of an inch to the left? That kind of stuff, isn't.
If they're looking that closely at you, smack them.
But if you do have stripes on a polo, or if you have some critical place to line up with, you might need to jog a little bit. So we can hold the laser to see where we are, and Nate's just down a little bit and over. So we jog through hoop
perfectly.
Plus any of the 4 arrows will jog. The laser comes on automatically, and I stop when I'm over the position. So in this case, I would move over a little bit.
Let's see if I can't get you an image of that. You're good where you are. I just got to move this.
Okay.
Okay.
Can you see the laser?
Actually, we can if I could get. I got to get focused, otherwise they'll all get
See
their glasses. Wait, I can't see. All right, let's get you back to that. There.
All right, so if I hold the laser, it comes on, I can see where I am. I'm still just a little bit down, so hoop plus the up arrow, and I'm gonna pulse it until I get close. Now you can see I'm basically right over the X. And
don't forget to take the tape off before you sew.
Oh yeah, wow. I had to leave it on the whole sew out, just cracked me up. Okay, so that's jogging the hoop. After you load a design, I always explain that it's cheaper to trace the design than to have a service call, right? It doesn't take long to do. It shows you, the laser comes on and it traces the outer perimeter of where you are in the design, so you can see from there. So how do we trace? I can do it from OS with the this icon right here, which is Trace Design, or since you're at the machine and you're visually watching, I find it's easier to do here. So we get hoop, which is the rectangle, plus the star with the laser, so hoop and star. It will go around. Sorry. I'll do it again. So it'll trace the outer perimeter, and basically, if you see the laser over the plastic, you know you made a big mistake, right?
Yeah, don't lie to your machine.
Right. You want to put the exact hoop, you want to tell OS the exact hoop that's on the machine. If you do that, it will not injure itself, because it will not allow a design larger than the hoop to even be started or traced or anything. But if you have a design that's this big, and you tell it the hoop is this big, and really the hoop is this big, yeah, you're going to probably have some trouble. So I only need to trace once, right? If I have a 100 shirt order, I don't need to trace every run, because if it's going to fit once, it's going to fit every time, right? You got something?
I trace not infrequently for multiple reasons. One, if I see the hoop go up, I didn't get this shirt on the same way, so I have something tucked under. Also, working with people in the past, some of them will get it in right on one side but not on the other. They'll catch on a little black clip here, so it's crooked. You may start to see that happen. You'll see hoop movement or something. It's just,
I see.
No, you absolutely don't have to. If you are super confident in what you're doing, load it, sew it.
If it was stripes, if it was weird things like that, yeah, you would want to, and maybe even use laser alignment. I just was used to massive production.
I get it. I used to just load multiple ones and go.
We would have 400 to 600 dozen garment orders. They were huge.
We did a whole bunch of very not my favorite color of green sweatshirts, and I was so tired of that color of green.
By the end of the order.
Okay, so one question, and it's getting a bunch of thumbs ups. Is it possible to slow or even stop the machine as you do a trace? Where it is currently, No. You can stop the trace, but it doesn't stop where it is, correct? Or it does?
The behavior is different. It used to be you'd hit stop. When you hit start again, it would continue the trace.
It also is going to depend. We always are looking at improving things and functionality. So this may depend on what version of software you have. Not version. Version as opposed to level. What version of software you have, this behavior may change a little bit. Also, if this is something that it sounds like is something that you guys want, we are always looking for things for improving future software. So I think the answer right now is not so much, but I will keep that in mind for future software as well.
All right. So after we trace it and we go, yes, that fits great, pull off the tape, of course, put on the water-soluble facing, and then, of course, the green button starts her up. You will, when you get when your machine first arrives and you get it set up and you put all the thread colors on, you're all excited and all that kind of stuff, there will be an initial maintenance you need to go through, right? Because there's different times from when they're manufactured to when they're put into service. And so the oil does evaporate slowly in time. So we want you to do 3 of the 4 maintenances initially.
We're now starting to say 2.
Some of the
so some of the things have changed how machines have been manufactured, and so typically right now, and I know that it's not in your software this way, but when you first get your machine, daily and weekly is just basically what you need to walk through, and then you're good to go. You don't need to stress about the monthly so much.
All right. But it's important that you do that initial maintenance and then follow the normal procedures when they come up. The machine's pretty neat in that it'll tell you when it's time to maintain it and walk you through the steps and change positions to make ports accessible and all that kind of stuff.
And Scott's going to say, or Scott just said, do it when they come up. I'm going to say you may need to do it a little bit more frequently. So take the rotor hook, for example. It's what, 200,000 stitches?
Yes.
The timer is based on a shop that's running 400,000 stitches a day. So if you're running close to that, you want to do it in the morning and then in the afternoon. If you oiled it on Monday and you ran 100,000 stitches, that timer's not going to come up on Friday if you haven't run it since then. I still want you to go through that maintenance before you start running.
Exactly, common sense. Or there's also, if you leave the machine unattended or unused for 6 months, you're
just go through all that.
a snowbird or something like that, then yeah, we want you to wipe off the old if you need to and apply new. It's really important that you do that.
And I think Chris has gone through those.
All right, so then some help. Of course, we have the help manual inside of OS, which is right here. Operator's manual. There's also links to Melco-service, stuff like that. Here's the operator's manual. Nate did an awesome job on this as far as searching, and you can find so much help.
Control F is your best friend in a PDF. It can help you find whatever you're looking for.
Yeah, Control Find, right?
Yeah.
Also, you explained the YouTube.
I did. It actually came up. Yeah, it did finally come up. So yeah, lots of videos here.
Man, do we ever?
In the FAQ, there's even
all the
index. Where to find all of these videos, and so yeah, it's handy.
Then FAQ. Yeah, you can type your search criteria in there, and you just wouldn't believe the help that this can give you. I want to know how to do puff. Well, here's an article on how to digitize for it, and here's a sample design that's done correctly that you can download. So there's so much help on this thing in all different areas. You can type in sometimes the message your machine is telling you, and it will clue you in on what it's trying to explain, all that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of help available for you. So hopefully you've gotten some quick startup information here that's beneficial.
Yeah, I'm going to show one more thing because a question did come up. And the question was, how do I move through a design? So if you need to do a repair, I would go into your software, and I would go Tools, and then Settings, and to the Move tab. And here you can move to a specific stitch or a specific color, or you can go to the next stitch or the previous stitch. Now, one thing that is really helpful when you do this, if you have this available to you, and this is a level dependent feature, is display stitches as sewn. So right now everything's grayed out, and this is going to be a little bit rough because everything's colored gray.
Right.
But I go to Tools, Settings, and then Move. And if I go to, how many stitches are in here? Okay, so if I go like halfway through, I can say Move to Stitch. You can hear the machine move. And now if I look, half of it's in 3D. Now if you've actually colorized your thread tree, that will show up in color as opposed to gray, and that just makes it a little bit easier to show where you are.
And these are also available through shortcuts on the keypad itself. I can move by color with needles and the up or down arrow, back or forth. I can move by trims with the star plus the up or down.
That is a machine dependent.
Oh, machine dependent, okay, if you have it. All right, so hopefully you got plenty out of this and it'll help you get started.
And one last question that got asked, do we let the machine know when it's been oiled? Yes, because if we don't, then the timer comes up when I don't want it to. So yes, I'm always going in and either stepping through it or hitting reset. But I don't hit reset without doing it. That would be a bad idea. So hopefully that got you everything you need. Yeah, I think we'll see you next week sometime. I'm not sure what's going on with that one, but we'll definitely get it posted ahead of time.
Check the schedule. Friday we have Design Shop Talk Live with Samantha.
Yeah, so if you've got questions, please let us know. Applications@melco.com is a great email to send that to.
Right.
We will post that a little bit. I think we're going to post it later today.
Yes.
And so you can comment in on that as well, what your questions are for Design Shop. So hopefully you got your OS and machine questions kind of handled in some of the basic stuff today, and then you've got Design Shop on Friday. So thank you so much.